Bruh.
This is Charlie, and he is an absolute legend. He is a human being first, a jazz piano coach, and my dear client. And in just 16 weeks of working together, I've helped him go from an in-person teaching business doing around 5 to 10K per month to making more than $40,000 last month of June with his online jazz piano coaching business. And not just that, Charlie has also fulfilled his 10-year dream of building his own online jazz piano academy, by which he's gotten 70 signups in just 13 days of launching, collecting over $20,000 with his new offer. And in this video, I'm going to run you through the 6 most important steps that we took together in order for him to accomplish this. And I want to start off by saying how proud and really grateful I am that I've been able to contribute to Charlie's journey this way, and how much fun it is making this video for me, because there is this gigantic stigma or idea that in the info space you can't make any money unless you sell monetizable business opportunity offers. That if you don't solve any financial problems or make people money, you can't even really scale an info business. And Charlie is absolute living proof that this is a big fat myth and it's bull crap. Because not only was his goal to hit 20K in June, in fact he doubled his business selling a 4.2 to 3.5K high ticket jazz piano offer. So let's get into it. Now, this is Charlie over here with a big fat smile, hitting his 40K per month in June. And before I go into all the technical details, there's one small thing I do want to mention, and that is that scaling information is highly case specific. What I'm about to share with you, all the theses, all the steps we took for Charlie will be applicable to any other info business, but the way they're executed and how that looks like is slightly different. So keep that in mind. But over here, I have a few other examples of clients I've scaled up and videos that are on my channel. And please, while you're watching this video or when you're done with it, please go ahead and watch those videos as well, because I want you to see how these cases differ. For example, Caroline over here, who I've helped scale from 10 to 30K per month in 90 days with their signature offer, Phoenix, which is actually a group-only program that scaled up drastically, and she has a very large ecosystem with over 700,000 people. Or Nicole over here, who I've scaled to 70K in 120 days, doing 20K per month, who is a rather high-ticket coach, high-ticket focused offer with around 17K followers, which is a smaller ecosystem. And then of course there's me, your boy over here. I've scaled to 100K per month in July of 2025 with maintaining an 89% profit margins, and really while maintaining the hybrid offer protocol, as I like to call it. Now this video over here is an older video of how I hit 40K per month. I'm updating it right now, but please go ahead and give that a watch too, so you can see the different theses in play. But with that being said, here's a few other wins inside of the collective, all of my students who also use the exact same structures that I share with you in this video to scale up their businesses. So this is the protocol that I've used to help Charlie scale his business, and it's the same protocol I've helped all my other clients. It's called the Imminent Growth Protocol and exists out of 7 core steps. Now I'm going to share a few of these steps in Charlie's perspective. The order of it's going to be slightly different because he had a different setup or initial conditions when he scaled his business. But as you can see over here, he's all with a big smile. So let's break down how we did it in Charlie's case. Now the first thing I want to share with you is where he was at when we got started versus where he's at right now. So you can see the contrast between these situations and how we got from point A to point B. So to begin, as you can see over here, Charlie playing piano, hustling, uncertain, and unaligned. Now, I'm not saying that on his picture over here he looks like that, but I couldn't find a worse photo of him. He has good photos up. Shout out Charlie. But it's important for you to know that at the start of his business, he was around 5 to 10K per month with in-person coaching only. He had around 40K followers online, 2K subscribers, and as you can see, he was really trading his time for money. And his time wasn't really worth a lot. I remember he was saying his coaching was maybe like $100, $115 per hour in the interview I did with him. And the main problem he had is that even though he had a lot of followers, he was unable to monetize it. He had no ecosystem in place. He posted content, but no one really knew what he did or how. His traffic was really from virality. A lot of people from India and Africa, and hey, no shade here, I am half Indian. But the problem is when you get a low intent audience to your ecosystem, no one's really gonna buy from you. His offer stack was very weak, and what I mean by that is I wasn't really sure what he was doing or how he was serving his audience. In fact, his offer is right now going for 3.5K if you pay in full, or 4.2K if you're gonna split it. It might be higher now by the time you're watching this video, but back then he was selling the exact same offer, 10 weeks of coaching with him, for half the price, and people wouldn't even budge or buy. It's not that his offer wasn't good, it's just there was no outcome that it would serve to, and Charlie would have to hard sell them on call, do constant objection handling. It just didn't flow very well. He spent around 8K on coaching before we started working together, but he didn't see real growth from it. He got his money back, but it was with a lot of friction. And so he was booking a lot of calls, but he had a 0% close rate, which Well, it's not unsurprising. A lot of businesses have this scenario, but it's obviously not what you want to be in if you're building a business like this. And so to conclude, really what was happening, he was unsure what his audience truly needed. He was like, okay, I'm just selling piano coaching. He didn't really know how to offer them help other than per hour. He had no way to monetize his audience or how to qualify them. And lastly, his selling mechanisms were very weak, meaning he would always have to objection handle. And the way that I would frame it is he had no clear roadmap to hit 20K a month, even though he had an audience who needed the help. In other words, he had no prospect to scale. Now, looking at where he is at right now, he's made 40K in June. In July, he was already collecting 25K in cash. And now in August, by the time I'm making this video, he's also on track to do another 25K or more already. And it's only the beginning of the month. Now he did a 93% profit margin on that 40K in June, all while having grown his follower base to 60K on Instagram and actually almost 8K on YouTube. So he grew quite drastically. As you can see over here, my man is happy, confident, with a big smile. That's my boy. And so how do we get this doing? What actually happened, and what is the difference between his setup now? He actually has a very strong ecosystem that pre-sells to his audience. I'll explain that in a moment. He has a leverage offer stack. As you can see over here, he has different offers, different types of offers, all distinguished by access. He has a high ticket offer in which he has actually closed 6 in a row in the time of making this video, which is really awesome. His total close rate has gone up by 70% on average, which is really, really great. His low ticket offer is now available and he has 70 plus members in it. And his mid ticket offer is launching, and it already launched in July. And so he has an optimized sales conversion flow. He takes sales calls, of which he has a 70-80% close rate. He's onboarding a setter very soon, and his low ticket offer is selling on autopilot. All he has to do is post content to it, which is an amazing situation to be in. And most of all, he has an internally optimized ecosystem. His flywheel qualifies people before they even get on a call with him, before a conversation, and long term, his brand lives on and has a lot of prospect for growth. And so since we started working together, he has 95 plus clients acquired with huge upsell possibility in the back. Think about it, 70 plus members buying into his course. A lot of these can be served through his community or group offer in this case, or his one-on-one. And he has a very clear roadmap to 50K per month, and he's doing really good. But the most important thing, he's out of survival mode. He has a clear roadmap. He's enjoying his life. He's really having fun building his business. And well, he has a warmed up and aligned audience ready to scale, which of course is every coach's dream scenario. So how did we even do that? And these are the 6 core steps that we followed, of course in tandem with the growth protocol, but just framed a little bit different for this video. And I'm gonna run you through each of them, his foundations and why we even were where we were, why he was stuck for so long, how we built his offer stack, how we optimized his ecosystem, the traffic and generation and qualification process, nurturing and converting, and lastly, how he could scale and continue delivering long-term value. So let's start off with the first phase, foundations and data. And this is a very, very important phase. Please don't skip it. I see a lot of people jumping into new partnerships or serving coaches, consultants, agencies, not really understanding the core fundamentals of why we're at the situation we're at. And this really is indicative of the decisions we're going to make. Because the question was, why was Charlie, with an audience of 40K Instagram, 22K on YouTube, unable to monetize and sell his offers? It makes no sense, right? He was quite literally making $0 from online acquisition. So to understand what happened, there's 2 important theses we need to visit. The first is the value equation by Alex Hormozi. Shout out Alex. And it's a very, very cool frame of understanding what really determines the value of an offer. The value here, not whether it's sold or not. And that's based on 4 factors: the dream outcome that the prospect or audience has, the perceived likelihood of achievement, time delay it takes, and the effort and sacrifice. If you're able to list these in detail, you should be able to quantify to a certain extent the value of an offer. Then there's the second thesis, the 3 ES thesis, as I like to call it, or the 3 ES protocol, the prerequisites in order to sell an offer. I have created this myself and use it based on an amalgamation of information that I've gotten. And it basically states, in order to sell any offer online, what you need is a big fat yes to the outcome. Your audience needs to understand what outcome you serve. You need to have a very clear method by which you serve people, because if it doesn't make sense how you serve people, for example, if I told you I could help you get an extra 20 to 40K MRR by snapping my finger, you probably wouldn't believe me and it would feel vague, meaning the method has to actually make sense for the outcome. And lastly is the third yes, you have to be the person, the consultant, the coach, the creator that actually represents the outcome you're able to serve people with, either through your own successes or your cases, and your method has to actually add up. Now, if you miss any of these, or if any of this is vague, your offer will become really confusing. People will not understand how you can help them, and as a result, it's hard to sell. And if we take a look at Charlie's case, here's the information. He was selling a 1.6K jazz piano coaching offer. He was pretty much hard selling on calls, not because he needs to sell his offer from a prerequisite perspective, but because no one could really understand what he did, so there were a lot of objections, and a lot of the leads were unqualified. And well, if you ask the question why, we can actually see it based on his thesis. You see, if I take a look at his ecosystem back then, and I'm going to break it down in just a moment from his initial conditions, it was really confusing what he did. I would straight up yawn if I saw his ecosystem. Sorry, Charlie, I have to say this. His method wasn't really explained or didn't exist fully. He has it now. And because of all of this, the only thing I could say if I saw his page was, can you really help people with that? And as a result, the value from his offer was also hella confusing. And so here's why I say these things. If I take a look at his outcome, his ecosystem did not reflect the outcome. You see, if I really took a look at his profile, and I don't have the photos right now, I'll see if I can find it. If not, well, just bear with me, guys. His bio was hella unoptimized, and both his Instagram and YouTube had a lot of random content on it. Content about getting better at playing jazz piano, this song breakdown, but none of it really addressed the core problem that his audience has. Then his offer structure was high ticket and low ticket, 1.6K for 10 weeks, and a 27 voicing mini course. But what was the core problem it solved? Why would anyone need to even listen to Charlie or pay attention to his classes or even go working with him? What does he really do? That was super vague. What is the value? And so as a result, his method was also vague because Charlie is really good at serving people, he's really good at what he does playing piano, but I can't really find out how good he is or if his thing really works based on seeing him alone. And so he had a sales page, but it felt vague what value it brought or what offer it would lead people to, because, okay, voicing mini pack, my guess. What does it solve for me? It's just a mini part of the entire journey of someone trying to get good at jazz piano. And because of that, I had no idea if Charlie was really the person who could truly serve me as a piano coach, who could help me get better at it. Can he really help me? And if I take a look at his Instagram back then, it was really surface level. Changed my mind, learned to be public, chapel room, pinky club piano, a song, easily create a harmonic mystery, instantly better at soloing. That's a good content piece. But it was so mixed, it didn't really address the core problems, and his YouTube also was random. Scale me to the moon improv, voicing chords, different octaves. It's like he's just playing music, but I want to get good at this craft. And so as a result, he was making general content to solve small problems, but never framed it towards the specific solution that his audience wants from him. And so that's why he couldn't scale his offer, even with a ton of followers. His calls kept feeling like convincing and hard selling. Don't know what happened to the age there. His close rate was close to zero. His viewers wouldn't even buy a $27 offer, and well, he felt stuck. So what we focused on and how we changed it is making it that Charlie is making $0 online because his ecosystem is so whack. Sorry, Charlie, I love you, bro. But it was. Outcome is vague, method doesn't exist, you seem uncredible. 2, having a business where obviously he's not doing 40K a month, there's a big fat yes to the outcome because I understand what you do, the method is clear, and you seem like the most legitimate person on the planet to teach this to me, and I'm happy to say that's what we succeeded at. Because here's what's happened. You see, the second phase we had to now focus on, because of all of this being a big mess, we had to create a very good offer. See, if you have a very good offer and you know how to serve people, what ends up happening is that you can now share and make it tangible through your marketing, through your messaging, through your ecosystem, the outcome you serve for people. You can actually build a method around solving that outcome. And you can actually position yourself as the legitimately most amazing human being on the planet to serve them for it. And that's exactly what we did. See, Charlie was very good at one particular thing, but he didn't really communicate it that well. See, his skill set was jazz piano, teaching, mentoring, but the outcome was vague. And so he could easily say, yeah, I'll help you play jazz piano, but is that really what his audience wants? So we did a bit of market research. What is the core dream of all these aspiring jazz pianists or jazz pianists at this moment? And what we found after doing research, engaging with his audience through different means, stories, some in-DM conversations, and just also him reflecting on his own journey, a lot of the beginner pianists did endless repetition. They had no real framework for skill progression in jazz piano, and well, playing just absolutely sounded horrible. Never really sounded like that authentic sound you want to hear in jazz piano. And so what we knew is that people wanted to hit a point where they could really become and play like a jazz pro. That feeling of playing confidently, enjoying sounding like these amazing musicians. And that could apply to many people who are playing pro, people who are hobbyists and enthusiasts. I myself really enjoy piano, and I'm not really into jazz piano right now. I'm more into metal over here. But see, if there was someone who could teach me how to get really good at metal, saving me a lot of time, it would be highly valuable for me. And of course, it could be normal people wishing to just learn jazz piano. And so now that we knew what their core desire was, which is getting good at it, and the problem being that there's endless repetition, no way to get good at it, and it takes so much time, and well, they have the commitment and buying power, we found an audience that we could present a really good offer. So from there on, the next question is, now that we know what we can solve, how do we solve this? And so we landed on the following process. See, I'm a really big fan of the hybrid offer thesis consulting business model. And the whole idea is that there are many ways to serve people with one core solution. If the core solution is teaching them how to get very good at sounding like a jazz pro within a limited time frame, then the three offers we typically would opt in for would be a done for you, a done with you, or a do it yourself offer. Now, obviously Charlie over here is teaching people, so he cannot opt for the done for you route because you can't literally make someone play for them and make them good. You're gonna have to teach. But obviously if you're an agency or you're selling a service where you can implement for another, then the done for you offer would be an option for you. Now in Charlie's case it wasn't. We opted for a done with you and a do it yourself offer. But back then, remember, his ecosystem was relatively small. He didn't have everything in place. His foundations were all over the place. So what was the best way to serve is a question that I asked myself and I asked him. There's two things we could think of. We could go on his one-on-one coaching program, which he was already selling, but the friction was quite high and he had a little bit of resistance there. Or he could go for group coaching, but the thing with group coaching is, well, you need people inside of your community in order to sell them a group offer, and he didn't really have a group back then or an offer like that, or a lot of people he was working with he could throw into a community. So another way to do this would be through DIY offers, like a course, mini courses, his Jazz Academy, which is now actually available. I'll get to that in a moment, or workshops. But the thing is that really the most valuable way to serve people? And the answer is obviously no. The most valuable way you can serve someone is by actually spending time with them one-on-one. And because Charlie didn't have all the data, he didn't know everything about his audience yet, we opted in that the winner for his first offer would really have to be one-on-one coaching. The reason for this is you get so much data when you serve people one-on-one. You learn about their mistakes, their problems, what's going on, where they need help, that you can take all that data and create a very strong course. That's also how we ended up building the Jazz Academy, to spoil you a little bit. So with that decision being made, the question is, how do we package it? And here's the interesting question, right? If you need to get really, really good at learning how to play jazz piano, how long could it take? And asking Charlie, he said, well, I have been doing this and we have seen amazing results with my students who were working with me for 10 weeks. So I said, okay, if we get you a dedicated client, would we be able to serve him in 10 weeks? And he said, absolutely. So in those 10 weeks, he could bring a jazz piano noob to playing and feeling like a pro. Of course, it's based on their own input. And so for pricing, I said, okay, Charlie, double the prices. Set it at $3.5K, or if they paid in full, or $4,200 split into 3 months. And I know you're looking at this going, what? For a jazz piano offer? Why in the world would anyone buy that? And this is a very good question. Let me put a little scenario in your head real quick. Let me do a little sketch here. Imagine your grandfather has been your hero. He always played this one particular song that you grew up listening to and it brought you so much joy, and he passed away. You've never been able to hear him play anymore, and you inherited his piano. So you're trying to learn all these techniques, you're watching all these YouTube videos, spending hours and hours, and no matter what you do, you can never get that sound right. A year passes by, 2 years pass by, before you realize it, you're giving up on yourself. What would you rather? Keep trying, keep making the same mistakes, pay all these different people who are absolutely horrible at teaching jazz piano, or go to Charlie, who's so good that in 10 weeks working with him, he can really help you get so good at playing that instrument. And well, the only cost is $3,500. Yes, it is a lot of money, don't get me wrong, but the idea is that the amount of pain it saves you and the pleasure and joy you get from playing that instrument properly after working with Charlie is literally invaluable. And to a lot of people that was the case, and because of that, we knew this pricing model would work, and well, it did. And that is also how I determined the value. You see, a lot of people wanted to play like a pro, and the only alternative that exists was spending years figuring out by yourself, making the same mistakes over and over again, getting info fatigue by all these people selling courses with no real structure, no real plan. And in fact, these were the pain points that Charlie had himself until he developed his own system for it, which props to you, Charlie, because that's very, very impressive. All these shitty coaches, endless repetition, and never succeeding. So the opportunity cost from not working with Charlie is literally having to spend years never being able to do it right. Or you can just learn from Charlie. And that is exactly how we determine the value and why it is a valuable offer. And so while we were doing this, while Charlie is building up his one-on-one offer, getting more people on it with a 70% close rate as a jazz pianist, guys, as a jazz piano coach, I should say, we was also building the Novu Jazz Academy, his DIY course. Now, the beautiful part of this is because we had so much data from his one-on-one clients, he was able to understand every pain point, refine his own model, refine his own learning from his own journey, and make the perfect product. But we couldn't just launch it like that. In order to sell something like this, you need a higher volume of traffic, because while you're doing passive sales on a course, which you're not going to do on sales calls, and the value of it is lower, you need a nurtured audience, and his ecosystem needs to sell without his involvement. These were the prerequisites that I made available for him, saying that we're only launching your academy if we meet these prerequisites. Otherwise, it's a waste of resources, of time, and it's not going to be a successful launch. And this brings me to phase 3, building out his ecosystem. And this was so important. Remember what I said earlier based on the 3S thesis, guys. Starting off, Charlie's ecosystem was weak. Sorry to say this, Charlie. Again, the outcome was super vague. It wasn't clear what the method was he served people by, and he didn't seem very credible. And so what we had to do with the ecosystem, and that's the state it is at now, it has to be very clear how he serves. His method has to be obvious, and people have to understand why he is a great fit. So I had to initially figure out with him, where do I truly stand? Is something I wanted Charlie to ask. He had a medium-sized account with about 50,000 people who followed him, but a lot of that came from virality, and he had a pretty weak ecosystem. And at the same time, he did have quite some strong cases, himself being one of them, and quite a few students would we could turn into assets like really breaking down his model, assets like testimonials and proof stories, and of course, he was very good at serving people, and he had the capacity, the skill. So with that all, I really determined the thesis. How can we scale without relying on virality or millions of followers, without burning your existing interested audience, or bro scaling in a very unethical way, pressure selling and using all these headache tactics to your clients and prospects? Because that's not a way that Charlie would respect himself. Remember, human first is a very big part of my approach, and of course Charlie's. And so with that being said, here's the optimal ecosystem structure. We wanted one platform to capture all attention and to manage conversations for high-ticket clients. This was of course Instagram. One platform to nurture deeper through long-form content, YouTube, and a seamless flow between both of these platforms, allowing him to serve as many people and having content have as little friction as possible in the customer journey. And I call this the Instagram to YouTube nurture loop. As you can see, this is Charlie's setup. He has now 60.5k followers, and currently it's very clear what he does. Novu Jazz Academy is here, DM me Novu from info, helping pianists develop real jazz language to create a rich, authentic, and beautiful jazz sound. Here's a YouTube video linking to his main YouTube video, the Jazz Morphology Matrix, which actually had a very high volume on YouTube because there's no one else doing this. And the best part of that video, by the way, is not just the fact that it went viral or hit a large audience, it was crafted to get as many people to buy and to also understand his offer. And then of course his Instagram has content that shares and really talks to the audience, breaking down, if you want to play authentic jazz piano, watch this, my Jazz Academy is here, how to build jazz proficiency and jazz piano proficiency and play with authentic sound, why you can't improvise and how to fix it, how to play out, and basically a lot of information on how you can get better at playing jazz piano, meaning we're progressing the journey. And he also shared his wins, testimonials, a little bit about himself, his students, and his academy. To do this a little bit tactically, here's how that actually looked like from an ecosystem perspective. You see, from the top of his ecosystem, we had cold traffic, organic content, referrals, and YouTube leading to his Instagram. Yes, his YouTube also led to his Instagram, where people can understand through stories, his head talks, and his Instagram content, and also a bit of YouTube content, just to follow him. From there on, people who follow him would understand a bit more about his offer, could be DM'd by our appointment setter or by him, which would eventually lead to them through either ManyChat or DM setting, getting to one of his offers. And for all the people who weren't ready to buy, who weren't warm in this case, they would be led back to YouTube, where YouTube would do all the work by people binging his content and inevitably knowing, hey, Charlie can help me. And so we also ran some retarget advertisement, like a retarget advertisement people did not follow, and a retarget advertisement, I didn't put it in the form, so I just drew it down here for people to DM him a keyword so they could learn how to work with them if they are high in intent. And as a result, what happened is that his audience was nurtured through his ecosystem. Demand was generated for his offer before any real conversation. And so Charlie would then interact with his audience, leading to him being able to serve them. So since doing that, he's been able to get 6 back-to-back closes on a 4.2K offer, back-to-back, straight off the bat. And he's currently actually at 8. And so the question now becomes that the ecosystem's in place. How do we even generate traffic, Vince? Well, that's phase 4. And this section is all about traffic generation and audience qualification, because yes, if you have a good ecosystem in place, that's awesome, but what's the point of it if no one can actually find you, and if we can't actually qualify your audience so that they can work with you? So in Charlie's case, which is important, is of course the whole idea behind the ecosystem is that it qualifies his entire audience, but that does happen in a particularly specific customer journey, meaning everyone who sees him for the first time, who basically goes, who is this dude? Can he help me? Why should I even listen to him? AKA a note the outcome, the method, and to him would need to move through the first initial impression to an absolute yes to the outcome, a, as I like to say, to the method, and a to him. Meaning that traffic had one purpose, to really give a strong impression. And not the metric impressions here, but the impression of him as a service provider, as a potential coach or potential mentor for these people who wanted to learn jazz piano. And so what we did is we made a use of really creating a leverage through paid ads and organic. So Charlie already had a decent audience, 45,000 followers, but a big part of that came from virality. However, we did not really know how many people are viral and aka not really high intent. There's non-buyers on his profile simply because they did not know Charlie could serve, and there's non-buyers on his profile because, well, they're just unqualified Indian, African, non-ICA. So what we had to do is filter the high intent audience using organic content like stories, reels, carousels, and YouTube long form, while at the same time running paid ads to a new audience. Basically, profile visit ads or retarget advertisement for people who saw his profile but didn't follow, so that the right audience could actually follow him. And what we did is through these ads, we targeted a high intent audience through a use of creatives like hooks, using specific callouts, which would lead to these people, for example, in his content piece, looking to play authentic jazz piano, where he calls out the audience and their pain points, who would then follow him. And if they followed him based on this thesis and his ecosystem is properly structured so they understand he can serve them, that means, hey, that's a potential lead, right? Or a retarget ad with one of these carousels, which really targets the pain point they have or their desire, which is how to play jazz piano proficiently with a great sound. And so basically, the thesis is here how to get as many eyeballs who are qualified on Charlie's ecosystem, whether it's currently following or non-following, filter the existing ICA audience, and leveraging ads to attract new ICA audience to his ecosystem, while all of that does the work for him. And that's really how it looked like. We optimized his ecosystem on Instagram to do that, and his YouTube as well, so every video, every content piece has a stronger and deeper impression. And this is the beauty of ecosystems. And this is also based on a rule or a thesis I call the 15% rule by Eugene Schwartz, who wrote a book, Levels of Awareness, in 1966. The idea is that whenever you are running any kind of advertisement, or if you have an audience through content, about 15% of your audience at one moment is going to buy from you. That's the whole thesis, meaning essentially if we were to go off of this from a funnel perspective, 15% of your audience is hot, problem and solution aware, about 45% could be warm, or 30% could be warm, symptom aware, and 55%, if you were to just do a numbers game, is cold and unaware. And the whole thesis is that if only 15% is gonna buy, how do I get these 15% of people to buy from me? But there is one flaw to that thesis. See, the problem with funnels, the cursed word funnels, is that, and let's do a little math game here. Let's do a thought experiment for a moment, right? Say you're spending $3,000 on ads to get as many people into your funnel. And don't mind the numbers down here. I realized I didn't properly math well. I am Asian, guys. Don't even yell at me. But let's say for Q1 of 2025, you would spend $3,000 on ads. That would get you an audience to your ecosystem, and about 15% of these people will only buy. What would happen to the other 85%? Well, nothing. The idea is, fuck them, and I'll convert the 15%. Great, but I spent 3K on ads, meaning that only that 3K led to 15% of results. Meaning, if I do ads the next month, I spent 3K again, or the next quarter, sorry, I spent 3K again, then yay, I'm gonna convert 15% of that audience, but what happened to the other 85%? Same thing, ditto, fuck them, they don't wanna buy from me, bye-bye. And yes, you could consider using a retarget advertisement, but it's not going to be the same effect because they can't really learn about you. What difference is it 3 months from now if they saw you now and they didn't buy from you now? The idea is not really a big one, or the numbers won't be that drastically different, meaning you're never building leverage. And this is the problem with funnels and why I introduce ecosystems, because the whole idea with an ecosystem is that if I were to run $3,000 on ads today, then 15% of that audience would buy from me right now, but the other 85% would just chill inside of my ecosystem, presuming that that 85% actually followed my account. Like let's say the following an account indicates being part of the ecosystem, meaning that next quarter of the 85% who actually converted from a follower and who didn't buy from me yet, about 15% of that audience is now going to buy from me. But if I run 3K ads again in the next quarter, I'll get a new 100% audience of which 15% will buy, meaning every single month, every single quarter that I run advertisements, what happens is I build a bigger buyer base. Over time, people will convert, warm up, and buy from me. Why? Because I'm a genuine service provider, and that's the thesis we tested with Charlie, and it actually proved correct. Because the thesis is serve, don't sell, which brings me to phase 5. Nurturing and converting. You see, the idea behind all of Charlie's content wasn't to just make a quick buck and that's it, I'll fuck off now that I made some money. The idea was to naturally progress customer journeys, and this is a very, very, very intricate and beautifully detailed structured journey. Because the idea was that his unaware or symptom-aware audience, by watching his content when they enter his ecosystem, seeing an advertisement, an organic content piece, would learn about the problem. Learn about the fact that the issue with jazz piano is the endless repetition, not knowing how to structure your systems, how to get good at it. And they would become a problem where, hey, yeah, I've been trying to get good at that for a while, but I just haven't succeeded. The problem-aware audience would now learn about a solution, Charlie's, and would what I call become solution-aware. And the solution-aware audience would immediately learn about the next step that they can take to solve that problem, and they'd be preempted to buy. And guess who that next step is, or what that next step is? It's getting on a conversation with Charlie or buying his course. And that is the beauty. By doing this, we get to serve. So how did that really look like? Let's take a look at the detailed customer journey. We would run an advertisement called Traffic. It's this head talk advertisement where we call out the ICA saying, if you're trying to learn jazz piano, you've been stuck, you've been feeling this or that, then follow my account. By following his account, they would end up on his Instagram where they could consume his Instagram content. Every piece of Instagram content is optimized for that customer journey. And what would happen is he would post stories or call to actions on those content pieces. And the warm audience, or the people who would be interested in learning about it, would comment. When they comment on his reels or they DM him through his stories, what would happen is his ICA would either, depending on their journey and what they opted in for, immediately check his YouTube, where his YouTube does the rest of the work and warms up his audience even more, getting them ready to buy, or his audience would immediately say, hey, this is the thing I've been looking for, Charlie, can you help me? Which would then, if they don't immediately do that, lead them to YouTube, and on YouTube they go even deeper, understand more about the targets, pain points, educating them on the journey and really showing him the offer, which then would lead to our audience coming back to his Instagram and DMing Charlie going, hey Charlie, I want to work with you. And the last step to that customer journey is, okay, well, if they're only trying to get into his academy, there's an offer document waiting where he breaks down everything that is part of his offer. Or if they want to learn to work one-on-one with Charlie, they would be qualified in DMs to see if they are a good fit for the sales call, which eventually would lead to Charlie to be able to serve his audience. And that is how it all went. And basically, since we did this, Charlie's numbers are absolutely amazing. $23,000 for his academy. His total cash collected with his new offer came down to $31.4K. So he did over $44,000. And this was around July. I didn't update these numbers. And so in the end of June, he did $40,592,056. Which is absolutely amazing for an offer like this, and just for Charlie, I'm super happy for him. So now that you understand the whole perspective of how we create this ecosystem and how we even built it out, the question is what's next? How do we keep scaling this? How do we maintain it? And how do we really maximize the value we can bring to his audience? Because that's another part of the business. So what we had to do was stabilize his numbers. See, Charlie had a big month, but the idea wasn't that he could only have a big one once and then go regress back to 5K a month. So what we did, we had to get very clear on his ad structure. What's the cost per follower? Was that below $1.50 per follower? If the case is yes, that's great. What's his cost per call? If it's under $30, that's great. And what's his cost per acquisition? If it's below $50, we're doing very good numbers. And in fact, yes, these were his numbers because of the strength of his ecosystem. His close rate went from a 0 to 20% to 70% in 120 days, which is absolutely amazing. And he recently just got 2 more sales off the bat just like that, and it's August. And his offer to buy rate with this document would have to stabilize around 5 to 10% conversions, which is very high. But again, remember, people have to DM him for a document. content. Why not passive? Because we want to isolate and make sure our audience is qualified, and that's what our ecosystem does. Then next thing is, my goal for Charlie is, okay Charlie, let's get more passive sales. Let's increase your ad spend and visibility by 3 to 5x to make sure that we keep growing, and check the numbers as we go, and then optimize the ecosystem from here. Increase volume, meaning we want better long-form content, better short-form content that really just means that organic is now the relying factor on what grows the business, and we no longer are as reliant on ads. Not meaning we're not running ads, but simply saying our ads are an extra factor to growth and we're no longer reliant on it. And then of course, use stories to drive traffic to DMs or YouTube, which basically means it will do the rest of the conversion work for Charlie. And from there on, the last step was simply to improve client delivery, introduce upsells and downsells, meaning that people who joined his Jazz Academy could be upsold to his Done With You offer one-on-one, or his group, the Ensemble or Virtuoso offer, or simply we could downsell his one-on-one clients to his Done With You group offer, because now they don't need his one-on-one support anymore, but they can benefit from working and being part of the community where they can keep growing in their journey. And that's really it. This is what it means to pivot from a hamster wheel to a flywheel business. Over here you see the hamster wheel. This is what we did not want Charlie to be, and instead we wanted him to be inside of a flywheel where every effort he puts in halves the extra effort in the future. Just imagine an image of a flywheel here. I couldn't find one that I really liked, so just imagine it for a second. And so, a few takeaways for you if you've made it to this point is, if you're an info business coach consultant selling a Done With You offer, or if you're an info operator agency selling a Done For You offer, fundamentals are key, people, please. Fundamentals determine everything in a business. If you're trying to make up the lack of a strong ecosystem by running a magic ad formula, don't be surprised when your ads are going to be absolutely bad, or the people you attract in your ecosystem are going to be shit clients to work with. Because if your ecosystem doesn't demand any respect from people, if it doesn't show how good you are at serving or your method, don't be surprised when people come up with a ton of objections and then you go and feel insecure and think about how I need the perfect objection handle framework. You don't. Charlie doesn't get objections, because how can you handle objections best? By not getting any. That's the point that I've been trying to communicate all this time. And so the next steps from here on, if you have a business, please be clear on your offer, because without it, you're set to fail. Charlie had an audience, but people didn't know what he really did. If your audience doesn't understand what you can serve them, and if you don't understand your audience needs, aka the outcome, well, you're going to fail. It doesn't matter if you create a landing page or if you get them on sales calls. So remember the 3 yes thesis: the yes to the outcome, the method, and you. Next, content alone isn't enough. Charlie went viral. Well, he made content, but, well, he didn't make money for a long time, simply because you need to build an ecosystem that curates and progresses a natural buyer's journey for your clients. And third, ads will just not fix a broken system. I already said this. If the perfect ad strategy just doesn't exist, I run ads in my business and for my clients, and they work very well because our ecosystem handles all the traffic well. Again, you want to make sure you go from a yes to the outcome coming from your ad and confusion to the method on you, to making it so that when you run ads, everything is super crystal clear and there's such a beautiful buyer's journey. Which brings me to the last point: curate your customer journeys. This is so important, and the only way you can do this, and keep in mind, this is your one unfair advantage, when there are thousands of service providers and someone lands on your profile, you have one moment to make such a strong impression, a genuine and honest one, of how you can serve. And the only way you can do this is by understanding very well the pain points of your audience, where they're at in their customer journey, what the problems are, and position yourself as the bridge from point A, where they're at now, to point B, the goal that they're trying to achieve. And if you do this successfully, well, don't be surprised when people will genuinely want to work with you. And, well, lastly, enjoy building, because it is a fun journey and it comes with a lot of pleasure. So I'm very happy to be able to get you to this point. If you made it this far, congrats, and thank you for making it this far. Again, I want to end off by saying that serving Charlie has been an absolute pleasure. He's an absolute amazing human being. I'm so grateful to keep on going with this journey with him and to keep creating more value. So if you made it to this point, that's amazing. Like I said at the start of this video, I have 3 more breakdowns of different ecosystems, my own and my other 2 clients, that are slightly different than Charlie's, but that will show the contrast in approach and decision-making factor. So if you're trying to scale an info business, or if you are a consultant, creator, coach, and you're trying to learn more, please go ahead and watch those videos. And now, if you have made it to this point, you are looking for some help along the way, then I've got something good for you, because every single month I open up 5 to 6 spots to work with me. It's quite intimate, it's quite focused, and I do really enjoy serving people. So if you are looking for some help, if you felt like the info space is getting overwhelming, it's confusing, and, well, there's no real clear path roadmap for you to go from 5 to 20K per month to hitting those 20, 40, 50K months, then go ahead, check me out on Instagram and DM me the keyword grow, because I'd be more than happy to hear about where you're at with the journey and see if I can serve you as well, just like I've served Charlie. So that's it for today's video. Make sure to subscribe and leave a big like, because I'll be, well, making a lot more content like this, showing more of the behind the scenes of scaling info, including in my own case. And yeah, have a lot of fun scaling your business, and until the next one, cheers.